Good morning. Today is December 8, 2021. Welcome to the City of Toronto Committee of Adjustment, Scarborough District. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, which is an online digital platform, and it is streamed on to the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or a tablet app. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you please mute your devices until you are called on to speak. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Chippewas, Mississaugas, and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto, Scarborough District is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that applies to a property, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to sever property to create lots. In terms of receiving a copy of the decision of the committee today, anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure you include your name, address, and email address because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, the TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the OLT or the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Hearing procedure, I will call each item in the order that is listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant will proceed with a presentation if required by the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters that are outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if the application is substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to receiving the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. I request that we are here to hear your concerns and comments on any application, but repeating the same comments will not advance your cause. This will mark the end of the discussion. The application will then be taken into the committee for a decision. For the morning session today, we are dealing with items 1 to 20. Items from 21 to 30 will be dealt with in the afternoon session, which is scheduled to begin at 1:30 or shortly thereafter. Members of the committee, we have received the minutes of the hearing, I believe, from October. Is that correct, Mr.
Yes,
Deputy
there are
Secretary?
two sets of minutes. The two sets of minutes which need to be confirmed, one from October 20th and one from November 17th.
Okay, thank you. So committee members, you heard we have two sets of minutes to confirm. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes from the hearing from October? Member Mohammed, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of minutes of the meeting, October 20th.
Thank you. Have a seconder, please. Member Gary?
Madam Chair, I second that motion to approve the minutes from these past meetings. Thank you.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. The minutes from the October hearing have been adopted. Now, may I have a,
Through the chair, I noticed, did Member Taylor vote on those or not?
no,
Okay.
Member Taylor was not there at that hearing, nor was he at the November hearing. So now I'm going to seek for a vote on the minutes from the hearing from November. May I have a motion on adopting the minutes from November hearing? Member Said.
Madam Chair, I move the motion for approval of minutes of the meeting, November 17th.
May I have a seconder, please? Member Gary?
Yes, Madam Chair, I've reviewed those minutes, and I second that motion to adopt the minutes from the November meeting.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Motion carried. The minutes have been adopted. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any requests for deferral? Before I do that, my apologies. I have to declare a conflict. So before we proceed, are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff for items in this time slot, which is items 1 to 20? I see none. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I do have a conflict on one item. This is item number 15, and the agent or the applicant is an acquaintance of mine. So that is item number 15. 61 Bertha Avenue. Thank you. Now, we move to the deferral requests. So, Colin, do we have any requests for deferral for the morning session, item 1 to 20?
Through the chair, we have five deferral requests for the morning session.
Okay, let's start with one by one.
Okay, the first one is item 9, which is 5 Warringstown Drive. It's a deferral request by the applicant. Deferral sine die in order to revise their application to address issues raised by community planning.
Thank you. I understand that the applicant will not be in attendance today, but we do have his written request for requesting deferral. Members of the committee, do you have any questions on the request for deferral? I see none. All right. Can I have a motion on the request for deferral? This is item 9, 5 Warringstown Drive. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is a deferral request on item number 9 from the applicant to revise application to address community planning concerns. I move the motion for deferral of item number 9, sine die.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. The application has been deferred sine die. This is item 9 for 5 Warringstown Drive. All right. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, what's the second request for deferral?
The second request through the chair is item 12, which is 55 Claremont Avenue. It's a deferral request to the January 13th hearing due to insufficient notice. There was a staff error on the in the notice.
This is item 12. Okay. We have the applicant here, Dale. He's not there. Okay. So members of the committee, Dale Therault, the applicant is not here. Any questions or concerns with the request for deferral for item 12, 55 Claremont Avenue? And the recommendation is to defer to January 13 hearing. I see none. All right, can I have a motion, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For item 12, there was insufficient notice, and I move the motion for deferral of this item, and this will be heard in the next meeting, which is scheduled on January 13th.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I second that motion to defer to the January meeting.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application has been deferred to January 13 hearing. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, what's our other request for deferral?
The next request is for item 17, which is 8 Six Nations Avenue. It's a deferral request by the applicant to revise their application to address community planning concerns. So deferral sine die.
Okay, so for item number 17, do we have the applicant Muhammad Laki and Fatima Abuwat? All right. Are you there with us, Muhammad and Fatima?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. I'm here.
Good morning. So you have a request for deferral to revise the application to address community planning concerns?
Yes, so we have been working with community planning and they have advised us to defer the application and just we need more time to work with them in regards to our application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions or concerns with the request for deferral at this time? I see none. All right, can I have a motion on the request for deferral? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I recommend deferral of item 17, 8 Six Nations Avenue. That's a deferral sine die.
All right, may I have a seconder, please? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for approval.
All right, all in favor of the motion? The motion's carried and the application for 8 Six Nations Avenue has been deferred sine die. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, what's the next request, please?
The next, through the chair, the next request is for item 18, 360 Painted Post Drive. It's a deferral request by the applicant to revise their application to address transportation services concerns. So it's deferral request sine die.
Thank you. Is the applicant Kaushik Suthar available? Hello?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Chair, Madam.
Good morning, Kaushik. So we have a request for deferral to defer the application sine die to address transportation services concerns. Can you please confirm that?
Yeah, it's confirmed, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions or concerns with the request for deferral? I see none. Can I have a motion, please? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move deferral sine die to enable the applicant to address transportation services concerns.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member McKay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I second that motion to defer sine die.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application for 360 Painted Post Drive has been deferred sine die. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, what is our next request for deferral?
So through the chair, the last request for the morning session is for item 20, 537 Kennedy Road. It's a deferral request by the applicant due to an emergency. So, and the recommendation would be they are not available until after January 15th. So the recommendation would be defer to the February 10th Committee of Adjustment hearing.
Thank you very much. Do we have the applicant Christopher Duroc? No, all right. Yes, you did mention he was not available. All right, so members of the committee, we have a request for deferral for item 20. This is 537 Kennedy Road due to the unavailability of the applicant until February. Any questions, concerns? I see none. Member Macaulay.
I recommend deferral of item 20, 537 Kennedy Road. and that deferral is to the next meeting of committee on February the 10th,
It's not the
2022.
next one.
Okay, so it is not the next one, but the one after the next, so
But
defer to the
meeting
February
of
10th.
February the 10th.
Okay, perfect. All right, may I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor, I saw you.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
All right, Member Taylor seconds the motion. All in favor of the motion? And the motion's carried. Application for 537 has been deferred to February 10th Committee of Adjustment hearing. Thank you. I believe that brings us to the end of the deferral requests for the morning session. We are now going to vet the agenda, starting from the first item. Item number 1 is not 197 Gray Abbey Trail, and I can confirm that I have a very long list of speakers for this application. So item 1 is being held for further discussion. So item 1 for 197 Gray Abbey Trail is being held for further discussion. Item number 2, 806 Kennedy Road. I do not see any speakers there. May I have the applicant, Lance Caprillion, please? Lance, you're with
Good
us?
morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Yes, I am.
Good morning. So I understand your application was previously deferred from the October 20th hearing to address some concerns identified by Community Planning and Deputy Mayor, and you have sent us a cover letter and revised plans from, as well. And Transportation Services has no objection. Committee members, any questions for Lance at this time? I see none, all right. Lance, before we go into committee, any comments or at this time for the committee?
The only comment that I would like to make is that we did work with the Deputy Mayor's office, and they sent a letter. I'm not sure if it made it to you, but they sent a second letter in support of this application.
I do not have that letter from the mayor's office, but that's okay. All right. So I will now take the matter into committee. Members of the committee, if there are no questions or comments, can I please have a motion? Member Said,
Madam
please
Chair,
go
can
ahead.
I have a comment on that?
You have a comment on that? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, because I don't see there is any speaker and we are heading toward a motion. But before that motion, I would like to comment, I am actually not very convinced for some of the variants there, especially variance number 1, variance number 4, variance number 5, which is about the parking requirements. I understand the applicant is providing 38 parking as against required 68 parking, and the visitor parking is also deficient in number. So what I actually, because we are in a vetting session, I just wanted to show my, I am not convinced with 3 or 4 variances over here. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would you like to further discuss this and hold on the item?
If the applicant wish to give us a little bit briefing on that or presentation on that.
I can do that in the vetting session. So if you do have concerns, so the theory is that if you have concerns with any of the variances of the application, you should hold it down for further discussion before making your decision to give the applicant an equal opportunity to express his case. So at this point, I'm understanding you have concerns and you wish to further discuss and perhaps have a presentation then?
Madam Chair, a presentation is more
Okay.
desirable. Thank you for that.
Okay, all right, so then I will hold down item number 2 because Member Said has some questions or concerns with some variances. So, Lance, your application is being held for further discussion, as you heard. And we will come back to it in the main body. Thank you very much. Item number 3. Item number 3 is 201 Rouge Hill Drive. And again, I have a list of speakers, so item number 3 is being held for further discussion. Item number 4, 37A Allister Avenue. I have a list of speakers, so we are holding down this item for further discussion. Item 5, 37B Allister Avenue, holding down this item for further discussion because we have a list of speakers And just as a heads up, I will be dealing with item 4 and 5 together because they are two contiguous lots. So we will hold down items 4 and 5 for further discussion. Item number 6 is 7 Derrick Drive, and we have the agent, Andrew Sun. Andrew, you with us? Hello, Andrew. Mr. Sun, are you with us?
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. So,
Okay, great. Good morning.
good
Yeah.
morning, good morning, thank you. So we're dealing with your application at 7 Derrick Avenue, and I'm just going to ask the committee members if they have any questions. Members of the committee, any questions for this application, 7 Derrick Drive? I see none, all right. As you saw, Mr. Sun, there are no questions at this time. Do you have any comment before the committee makes a decision on this application?
No, we're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, members of the committee, if there are no further questions or concerns, can I please have a motion on 7 Derrick Drive? And I believe there's an urban forestry condition as well. So I will just confirm with Mr. Andrew Sun. Andrew, are you familiar with the conditions of urban forestry, and do you have any concerns with it?
Oh, yes, we noticed that at the urban forestry asking us to plant a tree in the city property portion, where we'll address that with our during our building permit application.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Coming back to the committee,
Thanks.
committee members, if there are no questions, can I please have a motion? This is 7 Derrick Drive, and there's a condition of urban forestry. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is quite a straightforward application. There are 4 variances attached to that, and I believe these variances are minor and appropriate. Thank you, Andrew, for confirming the urban forestry conditions. So with that, I move the motion for approval of item number 6, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member McCauley, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that approval with the attached condition.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried, and the application for 7 Derrick Drive has been approved, subject to condition of urban forestry. Thank you. We now move to item number 7. Item 7 is 320 West Point Avenue. And can I please have the applicant, Milan Lukovic? He's not there. Okay. So Mr. Lukovic is not available. There is no registered speaker on this application. Committee members, there has been some revisions to the application, which was included on the agenda. If there are no questions or concerns, are we prepared for a motion at this time on this application? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is again, I think, a pretty straightforward application, and the applicant has already provided a declaration of use as well. I don't see there are any conditions attached to that. So I move the motion for approval of item number 7, and there are no conditions to that.
So the application has been amended, so you may want to include the wording to reflect that the application as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I revise my motion, approval of item number 7 as amended, and there are no conditions to that.
Thank you very much. May I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll second that motion for approval.
All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried, and the application for 320 West Point Avenue has been approved as amended, and there are no conditions. Thank you. Okay, item number 8 is 8 Arden Crescent, and I do see there's a list of speakers, so I will hold down item number 8. Item number 8 is 8 Arden Crescent. It's being held. We now move to item number 10. Item 10 is 1019 Pharmacy Avenue. And can Can I please have the applicant, Curtis? All right, Curtis, you're with us? Hello, Curtis?
Yeah, just 10. I don't know why they just skipped 7 and 8 or 8 and 9.
Hello? Hello, Curtis, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hello, thank you very much for your attention. So we're dealing with your item 10, which is 1019 Pharmacy Avenue. And Curtis, there are no registered speakers, so I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Are you aware of the conditions from Communities Planning Staff Report?
Yes, I apologize. I was a little bit late jumping in, but yes, we read the staff report. We agree to all the conditions. If there's no requirement for a presentation, I'd answer any questions you have.
Perfect. And you're also familiar with the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
Perfect. And you have no questions or concerns with those conditions as well?
No, we do not. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Committee members, any questions for Curtis at this time? I see none. Well, thank you very much, Curtis. We're going to take the matter into committee. There are no questions or concerns, so can I please have a motion? And as you noticed, that there are two conditions. Well, conditions of community planning and conditions of urban forestry. Member Macaulay, please go ahead. Member Macaulay, I think you're on mute, please.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, good. I recommend approval of item number 10 for 1019 Pharmacy Avenue, subject to the conditions of community planning and which states they are to build in accordance with the drawing provided, and subject to approval or subject to conditions from urban forestry.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
All right, all in favor of this motion? The motion's carried and the application for 1019 Pharmacy Avenue has been approved subject to conditions. Thank you. All right, we now go to the next item 11. It's 165 Tapscott Road. There are no registered speakers in terms of the neighbors, but we have the owner's agent, and the owner's agent, and the applicant, and the owner, and the applicant. So can I please start with Armando Barbini, please?
Yes, speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning, Armando. I just want to
Good morning.
confirm that you would be the only sort of speaker representing the other three members that are listed. So Gary Fields, Vince Baffa, and Paula, you will be representing the owners?
Yes, I will be. I will be the initial speaker if the committee requires a presentation, and then if any questions come up architecturally or from the owner, they wanted to be on the call as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So members of the committee, are there any questions of Armando or any of the owners or the applicants listed? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Armando, just a very quick question, and this is about the bicycle parking. Could you tell me how many bicycle parkings are there?
There are more than required. I'm just trying to figure out the variance that's being requested is with respect to the way that the bicycle parking space is staggered, right? But there are going to be a total of, I'm just looking for that, 254 bicycle parking spaces.
Thank you. I understand it was not a variance required there, but just for my understanding.
Okay.
Because the parking space was, it was a staggered and the space was a little bit reduced. So I was wondering like how many spaces are available. So thank you very much. Yes, I understand it was not a variance. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any further questions? I see none. All right. So just confirming, I don't believe there are any conditions from any of the departments. So if there are no questions, can I please have a motion? This is 165 Tapscott Road. Member State, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of item number 11, and there are no conditions attached to that.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion's carried. Application for 165 Tapscott Road has been approved, and there are no conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. We go to item number 13, and item number 13 is 65 Charlemont Crescent. Charlemont Crescent? Is the applicant there? Bruno Lopes. All right, thank you. Bruno, you're there with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Bruno from MXL Engineering at 1649 St. Clair Avenue West.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Members of the committee, any questions for Bruno at this time? I see none. All right. Bruno, there are no questions of the committee. Anything you would like to say at this point? Any comment?
No, it's just a very straightforward application, and that's it. That's what we have before us.
Okay, thank you. All right, members of the committee, if there are no questions or concerns, can I please have a motion on item 13? This is 65 Charlemont Crescent. Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm satisfied that the three variances requested are very minor in nature and meet all the tests under the Planning Act. So I move approval without conditions.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that approval.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion's carried. The application for 65 Charlemont Crescent has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now go to our next item, item number 14, and item 14, 5 Frolic Crescent. There is a registered speaker, so this matter will be held for further discussion. So 5 Frolic Crescent, item 14, is being held for further discussion. Thank you. Item 15 is, I have a conflict on this one. So Member Macaulay, could you please chair this item for me for the vetting? Thank you.
Member Macaulay, you're on mute. Member Macaulay, you're on mute.
Should be okay now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, thank you. My apologies to everybody using the mute button here. Item number 15 is for 61 Bertha Avenue. We have Nadine Erfam. Nadine, are you present?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And we have Jacqueline Monlamart.
Through the chair, through the chair. This, because they're speakers, this needs to be this is just vetting, right?
That's correct. I want to know whether this next person, the neighbor, wants to speak. We only have her listed as neighbor.
Usually the neighbors, yeah, if they're listed as neighbors, that means that they do want to speak.
All right, so since we have both the applicant and a neighbor, we will hold this item.
Thank you, Member Chair, for chairing that item for me. We now move to item 16. Item 16 is 45A Sugar Bush Square, and we have the agent here, Graham Barrett.
Good morning, committee members, Madam Chair.
Good morning. Just want to take a quick look. Graham, there's a condition of urban forestry. Are you aware of that condition?
I didn't see it on the AIC, but the owner is fine with any conditions of urban forestry.
Okay, so it's a condition of urban forestry, and it's condition number 3, which is where there's no existing street tree, the owner shall provide payment in lieu of planting of one street tree on the city road allowance abutting each of the sites.
Sure.
Okay,
That's
and the,
agreeable.
okay, perfect. All right, members of the committee, any questions for Graham at this time? Oh, Member Macaulay and Member Said then. Member Macaulay, go ahead.
Thank you. I understand that there is a question about one of the variances for lot coverage. What is your request to the committee?
Yes, thank you. There have been some revisions made to this proposal. I included a cover letter outlining this. Planning staff were concerned about a rear covered deck and associated encroachment variances. So the deck has been reduced and the canopy has been changed to an open trellis, and a couple of variances have been eliminated. I've included a marked up public hearing notice in my presentation materials to make this abundantly clear. The one item of confusion is regarding the lot coverage. The rear covered deck has been altered and the canopy has been changed to a trellis. Now, I've attempted to get confirmation from zoning that a deck with trellis does not contribute to lot coverage, but I have not been able to get that. They were a little bit unresponsive. So if the deck with trellis counts towards lot coverage, the variance comes down to 45.76%. If the deck with trellis does not count, or I'm sorry, if it doesn't count, the variance can be eliminated. So it's a little tricky, and I was hoping to get confirmation from zoning on that. But perhaps a solution would be if the committee sees merit in this application to approve the lot coverage variance as reduced, then approval could be tied to the site plan and drawings submitted to ensure that construction proceeds. So if you
So,
look at the presentation
sorry,
materials that I
Graham.
submitted.
Sorry, Graham,
Okay.
if I may just jump in for a moment, and this is the chair. So I think we'll have to know exactly which lot coverage will have to be applied. So I understand that you have not been able to receive confirmation on the lot coverage by now, but I think we have to decide on a value at this time today.
Sure. If you look at the cover letter and presentation materials that I submitted, there is a marked up public notice with changes that have been made to the variances. A couple have been removed altogether. They were unnecessary.
Correct.
So those numbers can be approved. So if this committee is willing to approve the coverage at 45.76%, and then perhaps tie the decision to plans, then that would accomplish my client's goals.
Okay, all right. So on the revised notice, that was part of your materials. The notice includes two decks, or two lot coverages as described by you. One with, if the deck or the trellis is not included, and the other if it's included. So if it's not included, it's 39.33%. If it's included, it's 45.76. So what I'm hearing from you is that you are willing to proceed with a request for 45.76%, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right. So committee members, the applicant has confirmed he wishes to proceed with 45.76 as the proposed lot coverage.
Through the chair, and tying to the plans that were attached to his cover letter.
That is correct, yes.
Yes.
So that would be a condition should the committee choose to approve the application. So, members of the committee, any questions or comments with the amended application at this time? I see none, all right. Any questions for Graham? I see none, all right. So if there are no further questions, can I please have a motion? Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of item number 16 as amended. The lot coverage has been identified by the applicant. It's going to be 47.76%.
45.76.
47.76%.
45.76.
It's 45.76, Mohammed. If you look at the revised public notice in the cover letter, it shows 45.76.
My apologies. Thank you for correction. Yes, it's the lot coverage is going to be 45.76%, and there are conditions of urban forestry
And the application as amended.
as amended, yes.
Okay.
Through the chair, the committee may wish to consider tying it to the
Yes,
plans as
I
well.
was about to say that.
Okay.
Thank you, Colin. So there was a recommendation made that should the committee approve this, that it be tied to a site plan. That is part of the package provided to us by the applicant. Is that something you wish to add, Mr. Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to add this condition as well to the item number 16 for approval, subject to the urban forestry condition, as well as to tie the site plan to the approval. Thanks.
To the site plan. And can I, Colin, could you confirm what the drawing number is?
Through the chair, the drawing number is ZC.5, and it's revised to
So because I asked that because Graham, maybe we can confirm with Graham, in his cover letter, he indicates that it'd be tied. No, I don't think he indicated, he just mentioned that it could be tied.
and it's revised to November 16th, 2021. It's called site plan, drawing number ZC.5, revised to November 16th, 2021.
Perfect. It was in the package that was submitted with the cover letter. Okay. All right, Mohammed, so it got a little confusing, but I think we got it. You have a motion to approve the application as amended with the lot coverage of 45.76, subject to conditions of urban forestry and subject to the condition that it be tied to the site plan drawing ZC.5 that was revised on November 16, 2021. Can you confirm that motion for me, Member Said?
I confirm that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please, on this motion? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
I will second that motion without repeating the entire motion.
That would be very helpful. Thank you. All in favor of this motion? And the motion's carried and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you. All right, we now move to the next item, item number 19. And item number 19 is 122 Warden Avenue. But there's a list of speakers here, so I will hold down this item and come back to it for further discussion. The last item, item 20, I believe, was deferred. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the agenda for the morning session, where we've dealt with items 1 through 20. I will recap all the items that have been held for further discussion. Item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, item 8, item 14, item 15, item 19. Perfect. Did I get them right? Perfect, thank you very much. All right. So let's start with the first item that was held, item number 1, and it is 197 Gray Abbey Trail. I will confirm with the three applicants and the agents listed who will be the speaker, and if we have questions for any individual, we'll ask. I will not do a roll call, but I will name all the members who are listed as speakers just so that they can take their place and be prepared for when their name is called. Christy Jennings, Ulrich Westergaard, Magdalena, Vlad Malik, Bob Harper, Christy Jennings again, Christine Penny. So all those of you whose names I just called, please take your place. I will call you when your turn is up. Starting with the agent, Mr. Jonathan Binskowski.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Jonathan. Jonathan, I know you're the agent, and I think you did confirm with staff that you will be speaking, but just for record, I have to check with the other two applicants that are listed as well, if they would be speaking as well or not, or if they would be representing. So can I have Jesse for a moment, please? Jesse?
Yes, I am here. Yeah.
Okay, so Jesse,
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yeah.
good morning. So we know that you've listed as an applicant, but just want to confirm that, will Jonathan be representing you today?
Yes, Jonathan will represent me today.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Can we have Faisal, please? Faisal's not there. Okay,
Yes.
all right. Sorry?
I'm presenting today.
Okay, Faisal, you are there? Okay, perfect. I just heard you.
Yes,
So
thank
Faisal, could you please confirm if Jonathan will be representing you today?
Yes, Madam Chair, he will be representing.
Perfect, thank you very much. All right, so we come back to Jonathan. So Jonathan, we have your application here for 197 Gray Abbey Trail. It's a minor variance application, and 5 variances are being requested to construct a new three-story detached dwelling. It was deferred from the June 23rd hearing at the request of the applicant to address some concerns of the neighbors. How would you like to proceed? Would you like to make a presentation or go right to the questions?
I'd like to make a presentation.
All right, sir, so go ahead. You have 5 minutes, please.
So could we bring up the CA supporting material marked as October 28th, 2021 on the screen, please?
Okay,
So
just
what
give
we
us a moment.
provided Here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katrina's bringing up the materials.
I believe that's it, Katrine, page 2. So page 2 is a marked up version of the original public notice from the original hearing. From that public notice, there was originally 10 variances that were before the C of A. That has been since revised to have 5 variances that are before you today. So to briefly summarize what's happened, the variance for coverage has been eliminated. As a result of the reduction in the coverage, a slight reduction in the FSI has also occurred, which is variance number 2. Variance number 3 for the height of the flat roof remains as is. Variance number 4, being a dwelling may have no more than 2 stories, remains as is. Variance number 5, which deals with the platforms, has been reduced. Originally, there were 2 rear platforms off of the bedrooms on the 2nd floor. Those have now been removed. The only platforms that are before you today are for 2 front platforms at the front of the dwelling. Variance number 6, which deals with the platforms at or above the 2nd story, has been eliminated. Variance number 7 has also been eliminated, which dealt with a front encroachment of a stair. Variance number 8 has also been removed, which dealt with front yard landscaping. As a result of increasing the front yard landscaping, variance number 5 for the maximum driveway width has also been eliminated. So the request that is before you today is for 5 variances. They are for the FSI of the dwelling, the maximum permitted height of the dwelling of a flat roof as measured under 569/2013, the maximum height of the dwelling as measured under bylaw 9676, the old Scarborough, as well as the dwelling may have no more than 2 stories. And lastly, the request that deals with the 2 front platforms. Now, Katrine, if we could go to the revised elevation that is before you today, I think it's important when we're evaluating a request as such that we really look at the impact of what is being proposed before you today. I know we see that this is a 3-story dwelling as interpreted under the zoning bylaw. That 3rd story portion of the dwelling I think it's in plans, yes. So if we could go to one of the side elevations, please. And I think this is the crux of many of the objections. That's it, perfect, right there, please, Katrine, yes. So that 3rd floor is appropriated in the middle of the dwelling. That is not a 3rd story that projects all the way to the front or all the way to the rear of the dwelling. It is in the middle of the dwelling. In addition, those balconies that were there originally have been removed. So that third floor has been appropriated in the middle to take away from the impact from the streetscape as well as to the rear. In addition, that area there, now Katrine, maybe if we could go to the third floor, please. I think it's up 2 or 3. That third floor perfect. Right there, please, Katrine. What we see here is the outlay on the outside of the floor below with the middle portion of what is being proposed before you today. There's 2 reasons for the third floor projection to be there. The first is it's for the elevator shaft mechanical room. In addition, it is actually a prayer room for the owner of the dwelling. That's why we have a small bar sink as well as a washroom facility. So to take the measurement of the actual dwelling itself as measured without this middle projection that again does not extend to the north, the south, or the east. The projection of the height before you today is in actual 8.35 meters, as would be visible from the streetscape. Now, this is a very unique site in where it's located. There are policies in the official plan of 4.1.5 in the neighborhoods portion that speak to the enhancements of natural features. This essentially has a lakefront view. So the idea behind having the 2 front balconies off the front of the dwelling enhances that view of the dwelling itself. So yes, this is a 3-story dwelling, but if we look at the third floor,
Jonathan, your time's up. So I would say just, could you please wrap up your comments, please?
Yes, just if we look at where that third floor has been appropriated, the impact of it has been severely mitigated by how it's been set back from the dwellings to the east and the west, as well as the streetscape itself. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Katrine. Can we please have the screen back? Thank you. All right. Members of the committee, you heard Mr. Pinzowski's presentation. Any questions for Jonathan? Okay, I don't see there are any questions. So Jonathan, we are going to go and speak with our members of the public who have registered to speak with us, and then we'll come back to you for a response. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Can I please have Christy Jennings, please? Good morning, Christy.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Christy, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead and let us know of your concerns on this application.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Christy Jennings, spelled Kristie. Last name Jennings. I'm from the law firm Kagan Strategy LLP, and our office is at 188 Avenue Road in Toronto. We are the lawyers for Gerda Hueniken, spelled Gerda, last name Hueniken, and Ms. Hueniken is the owner of the property known municipally as 213 Grey Abbey Trail. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to the application today. I filed written submissions dated December 1st, 2021, setting out my client's position, so I will try to be brief in these oral submissions. It is important to first speak to the history of this application, because in planning, the process is just as critical as the outcome, and in this case, the process undertaken by the applicant is flawed. The subject application is only one of 2 active minor variance applications the applicant has filed for Grey Abbey Trail. The one before you today, and a similar application for 215 Grey Abbey Trail. The applicant has undertaken 0 consultation with the neighbors. This is particularly egregious in this case because this application first came to the committee in June of this year. The applicant, I assume upon becoming aware of the significant neighborhood opposition, asked to defer the application and has been given 6 months to reconsider the application. Yet none of that time has been taken to consult with the neighborhood. Instead, again, the neighbors are only advised of the proposed development when they receive a notice of hearing from the city. This is unacceptable, and it is not how planning should be done in the City of Toronto. The approach taken by the applicant is offensive to the community members that have lived in this neighborhood for decades and have real concerns with the development. And while this process is only one piece of the puzzle, in this case, the process is what has led to an unacceptable outcome before the committee. An unacceptable outcome that has attracted 18 letters of opposition from the neighborhood. The applicant is here today under the guise of a significantly revised proposal. The applicant's representative asked the committee, please focus on the changes made to the application. Most of the presentation was about what changes have been made. I'm asking this committee, and the neighborhood is asking this committee, please focus not on the revisions but on the application that still remains before you. An application that is still an extraordinary departure from what is permitted and what exists in this neighborhood. When the starting point is so outrageous as it was in June of this year, even significant modifications cannot bring you within the realm of what is reasonable. The number of variances sought might be reduced, but the outcome is still the same. The variances, both individually and collectively, represent an overdevelopment of the site that is out of character and inappropriate. The development will tower over this stable neighborhood. By way of example, the applicant has provided a modest reduction to the FSI. Originally, the application proposed a floor area of 388.39 square meters. The applicant has reduced this by 6 square meters to 382.33. The applicant has asked you to focus on this change, but what I'm asking the committee to see is that this is still asking for 100 square meters over what is permitted under the bylaw. So let's not focus on the 6-meter revision, let's focus on the 100 square meter ask. This is an important indicator, the FSI is an important indicator that this is an overdevelopment of this property. The excessive massing is only exacerbated by the proposed height, which was not reduced through the revised application, despite the neighbors expressing serious concerns with how tall the proposed building will be. The applicant proposes a building that is both taller and encompasses more stories than what the bylaw permits. I'm submitting to you today that the proposed development does not respect and reinforce the character of the neighborhood, and there is a legitimate concern by the neighborhood that if permitted, it will lead to the character of the neighborhood being destabilized. And the pattern that will lead to destabilization is not some far out intangible concept.
Okay.
The applicant has another.
Ms. Jennings, the time's up. I would request you to please close your remarks.
Thank you. The applicant has another unacceptable minor variance before the committee for 215 Grey Abbey Trail. So in conclusion, I'm asking the committee to find that the proposed development does not meet the test under section 45(1) of the Planning Act. And I'm also asking the committee to urge the applicants that if they want to move forward with an application to develop its properties on Grey Abbey Trail, they do the right thing and engage the neighbors. Subject to any questions, those are my submissions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christy Jennings. Members of the committee, do we have any questions for Ms. Christy Jennings at this time? Okay, I see none. Thank you, Christy, for your submissions today. We will come back to you if there are any further questions as we continue to deliberate. Thank you. We now move to the next speaker, Ulrich Westergaard.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ulrich. Okay.
I'm here on behalf of the Guildwood Village Community Association, and I must say that was a very detailed presentation we just heard. I really have not much to add. The GVCA, on behalf of the community, did submit extensive comments in response to the application. And again, I will ask the committee to focus on the 5 variances that are being sought. In particular, the height, and in response to the agent's comments, I will make a note that a 3rd story, regardless of size, is still a 3rd story, a third story, regardless of purpose, is still a third story. And it sounds like even without the third story, the building itself would still exceed the current allowance for a second story flat building. The GVCA provided, as I mentioned, extensive comments, and I asked the committee to refer to those comments and independently for each application here for variance, as well as they combined. The GVCA's position remained the same, and we asked the committee to reject the application in its entirety. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the committee, and I just want to confirm, Ulrich, that we want to acknowledge that we did receive your detailed presentation and the cover letter. So we have that in our possession, and we have read that as well. Members of the committee, any questions for Ulrich? I see none. Thank you, Ulrich, for your time. We're now going to move to our next speaker, Magdalena. Magdalena, you with us?
Yes. Yes, I'm here. Can you
Per-
hear me?
I can hear you very well, Magdalena, and you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead. If you've heard comments by your other colleagues or other neighbors, you don't have to repeat. If there's anything else or more to add, we're certainly here to listen to you.
Thank you very much. So I don't want to repeat myself or repeat the previous speakers, just emphasizing that this is unacceptable. It's insulting to the neighbors, to the neighborhood, to the adjoining properties. Everyone who is in this neighborhood, I think, feels it feels in a similar way. I do not understand why, given this many months and the nature, the culture of this neighborhood, we were not in any way consulted. It's incomprehensible. These variance proposals are in no way minor. I don't understand how this can be called minor. So just expressing my my dissatisfaction with both the process and the content of the proposal. Thank you very much to Ehrlich and to Katrina for, sorry, not Katrina, Christy, for their presentations.
Okay, thank you, Magdalena. Members of the committee, any questions for Magdalena? I see none, thank you. We move to our next speaker, Vlad Malik. Thank you. Vlad, you with us? Hello?
Through the chair, it seems they are a call-in user, and they are currently muted.
Okay. Vlad, if you're listening to us, you are a call-in user. We can see that, but you're muted. Could you unmute yourself, please? Vlad. A last call, Vlad? Okay, all right, Vlad, we are unable to hear from you. We're going to move on. We're going to go to the next speaker, Bob Harper. Bob, you with us? Oh, Bob's not with us. So staff has advised me that Bob has not signed in. We now go to the next speaker. Oh, well, Christy has already spoken. Christine Penny.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning, Christine, and please go ahead. You have 5 minutes. Tell us what your concerns are.
Thank you very much. I would like to mention that Bob Harper is with me in my home. He had technical difficulties.
Oh.
And perhaps you can allow him to speak as well. But let me first go. This application is clearly overbearing and not in keeping with our neighborhood, which we truly do enjoy, and we are very upset about this application. I had gone around and we have gotten 135 signatures of opposition on this proposal. And in speaking with all the neighbors, there is quite a concern and anger about how this has all been processed. Regardless of that, it's just that bylaws are bylaws, and while some variances have been dropped, the main crux of this is it's a three-story home. It is larger than it should be for the lot and the area, and we are not supportive of this. So everything has been said before by others, so I won't continue on, but if Mr. Harper can speak, that would be terrific.
Okay, all right. I can certainly allow Mr. Harper to go ahead. Mr. Harper, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, Madam Speaker. I just want to say that my wife and I are adamantly opposed to the development as presented in the noted application. What it shows, what the building shows, is that the neighborhood be assaulted, not insulted, but assaulted with this type of construction. The major constructions in this area are one-story bungalows or two-story dwellings. And in most cases, I'd say 99% of the cases, the dwellings that have the second story blend into the environment extremely well. This new proposal that's been submitted is the same as the last one, last couple, as a matter of fact, over a 6 month, 7 month period. And as Christine mentioned, she has 135 signatures on a petition that opposes this type of dwelling. The changes would significantly change our landscape in the neighborhood and Gilwood Village. The other thing that we're concerned about is it being a private family dwelling. The planned structure to us illustrates that the applicant showing no regard to the surrounding community at all. It appears to be a multi-tenant rooming house, if you will, and we don't have any tolerance at all for massive rooming houses to be built in Gilwood. And the Gilwood Association letter of November the 23rd that was referred to by Ehrlich outlines that extremely well. Anyways, that's what I have to say, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Harper. Members of the committee, any questions for Mr. Harper? I just want to clarify, so the residents on Fordover Drive, they are the ones that back onto Gray Abbey Trail, right? And I was just looking at the map at this point.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, if there are no questions, and I believe that was the last speaker on my list that I had, we're going to go back to the agent, Jonathan Binskowski, and request Jonathan to please address all the comments and concerns that have been raised by the speakers. Jonathan?
Yes, Katrina, could we bring up the proposed site plan, please? I think a lot of the concerns dealt with the process rather than the variances really that are before you today. As a professional planner, I think it's important that we look at the impact of what is being proposed. And really the issue that was brought up, I believe, were twofold. One dealt with the FSI and one dealt with the height. If we look at the parameters within the planning context that control FSI, we really look at side yard setbacks, front yard setback, rear yard setback, as well as building length, as well as building depth. The FSI request that is before you today does not offend any of the controlling factors that lead to an overbuild. We are in excess of the side yard setback requirements of 1.2 meters, and we are now complying with coverage. Yes, there is a third story that has been appropriated in the middle of the dwelling. That mass is not visible from the streetscape itself. Katrina, if we could go back down, please, to the third floor and zoom in on the dimensions at the front and the rear. Where it has been masked and where it has been appropriated takes away that impact. Correct, whether it's 1,000 square feet or 100 square feet, a third floor, yes, still is a third floor. But we must assess it as where that impact and how that impact is being felt not only by the neighborhood, but as well as by the surrounding properties. So as Katrine has it here, we see that is set in 18 feet from the rear of the property and around 17 feet from the front. Again, this is not proposed to be accessible area. This is to be used as a prayer room and to offer the elevator area there. So the impact of what is being caused by this, in my opinion, is really what we must examine. And then lastly, Katrina, if we could just go to that side elevation. And quickly, yes, the building dwelling length and depth are also well below the zoning bylaw requirement. And I would say that one other small point is a flat roof dwelling would be permitted at 9 meters, which would be above the 8.35 meters that is at the sides. So the impact of the streetscape permits and it contemplates an impact of a 9-meter house with a mansard or shallow roof. And we all know architects and designers have found a way to bring that 9 meters and offer as much livable space inside. So what is proposed for you today is an 8.35 meter height as it addresses both the front as well as the rear. And remember, the zoning bylaw contemplates a 9-meter pitched shallow roof house as long as 50% is below that. So the impact of what we have here, from it being a 2-story dwelling at the front and the rear, in my opinion, is what we must focus on, and that FSI is not caused by a house being too long, too deep, closer to either side yard setback, or any landscape issues in itself. And I think that kind of wraps up my portion of the presentation.
Jonathan, I would like to say that, yes, I agree with you that none of that increase in the FSI is a result of, increase in building length or building depth. But I think overall, the FSI is controlled by not just that building envelope, by other factors as well. So the intent of the zoning bylaw is to control the FSI or the massing through various variables, and that may include, that includes the setbacks, the building length, the building depth, as well as the GFA as well. So it's not just the building envelope that establishes massing, it's a combination of things. So I just want to clarify that. And what is being requested is the GFA maximum permitted is 279 as opposed to 382 that's being requested. Now, I also want to ask you a question. Almost all the speakers mentioned the fact that there was no consultation done. Although this application was deferred on June 23rd to address concerns of the neighbors. So how did things pan out in the last 6 months? Why wasn't consultation done when it was actually deferred for that reason?
Madam Chair, I don't really have an answer for that. I was not engaged in this process at the beginning. I was engaged toward the latter stages of this. But I think, yes, such a big part of the planning process is public participation. I agree with you absolutely, Madam Chair. But the short answer is I don't really have an answer for you on that. I was not engaged at that time, at that point.
So do you think it was the former applicants or the agents who were running the process at the time, right? Who appeared on June 23rd, and that would have been, I'll just have to confirm with Faisal then, I guess.
Madam Chair, I'm not at liberty to speak
Okay.
to that.
All right.
That's my place.
That's okay, Jonathan, that's fine. Staff, can we have Faisal online with us for a moment, please? Thank you, Faisal. Hi, Faisal. So you heard the speakers that the public consultation or there was no engagement with the public or the residents in that area. Could you please confirm that? Because the purpose of the hearing, the deferral in June, was to engage with the residents. So what happened there?
Hello, Madam Chair. I'm really, I'm not prepared to talk about this right now. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Because, because The new, well, I'm sorry about that. I'm not prepared to talk about this right now.
That's okay. Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much for that confirmation. Okay, so members of the committee, any questions for Jonathan at this time? I see none. All right. So we are going to go into committee now. Before I go, Jonathan, just anything before we go into committee, any closing remarks?
I would just ask that the committee really focus on the variances and the impact, what is before them today. And I would just add that city planning had an opportunity to review the first proposal with the 10 variances and didn't provide any type of a planning staff memo, and would have had a chance to review the revised one with the 5 variances that are before you today. And there has not been a planning report or a memo issued on either application, which might be indicative of some of the policies of the OP, as well as the zoning bylaw intent, in my opinion, being met.
Okay, thank you very much, Jonathan. All right, we take the matter into committee now. Members of the committee, any comments, deliberation on this item? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the residents who have spoken and have well expressed their concerns. To the applicant, I hear your comments. I understand that there was little or no consultation, but I think the issues are really what is being proposed. And to me, the major issue that is being proposed is a new 3-story building on this site. Whether it's a partial, the 3 stories is part of the building or the whole of the building really is immaterial. It's a 3-story building, whereas a 2-story building is only permitted. This is an area where there are changes in the community. It's an older community. It's also an area that is overlooking the lake. And so there is a desire for view of the lake. I can understand that, and I can understand the front platforms that would provide that view of the lake. But it's also an area that is wanting to change but maintain the character of its community. I drove around about 5 or 6 streets in that area just this past weekend. I did note the other variants on the same road that is signed. And I saw larger houses being built. None are greater than 2 stories. So to set this one as a 3-story house in an area that has, to my knowledge, none, sets a precedent over and above what is desirable to maintain the character of the area. There are other parts of this variance that I have some concern with, but to me, the major one is really the 3 stories, the height of that building, and what that will do in changing the community, and what kind of a message that others will come in and say, we too want a 3-story. One of the residents wrote a very good letter and said, there's a large tree in the backyard here that I could see, that they would like the trees to be taller than the buildings. I think that's a good comment. Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Member Macaulay, for your comment, but I just want to pivot your attention to the fact that I agree, the bylaw does not allow 2 stories, and predominantly there are 2-story buildings. 2 stories is permitted as of right. The addition of a 3rd story that's being presented here, that's for a small portion only. It doesn't go from one end to the other end. It's a smaller component of the 3rd story. And if you look at it in the overall sort of composition of the building, if one were to proceed with a proposal for a 2-story dwelling with a pitched roof or your traditional roof, you would still get to the 9 meters. Yes, I agree. There's a request for an increase in the height as well. But from the overall massing, you could go like a full 2-story wall to wall up to 10 meters or 9 meters. I don't know what the provisions are, but generally within 9 to 10 meters. Do you think that would play into your assessment of the proposal? Like that, the third story is only
Yes,
for a
Madam-
portion of the roof and not for the entirety of the mass.
Yes, Madam Chair, I did in fact think of that because as the applicant has said, it's only a portion. But unfortunately, we're not saying a third story is only a portion. We're saying that this is a third story added to this building. And Madam Chair, you may remember that we had a training session about month and a half ago, and that training session was focusing on the height of a flat-faced building. And the fact that the flat-faced building has a height of 7.2 meters, whereas a building with a roof can go up as high as 9 meters, is due to the impact of that flat face, the visual mass of that onto the street. And we're still dealing with a visual mass, a height of 10.97 meters with a flat face onto the street. So we're dealing with a very large, massive building in an area where that is not the norm. It's not the character. And the height, whether it's a portion or whether it's the whole of the 3 stories, really will set a precedent for other other redevelopment in that area.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any other comment? Mr. Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Both these aspects which Member Ann was mentioning, the first, the 3-story building, Madam Chair, you are right. The third story, I appreciate Jonathan has made the efforts in reducing it and just putting it at the middle of the building, but and then the impact of this third story was also explained, elaborated that perhaps they have tried to reduce the impact of this third story. But the sad part is, yes, the third story is still there, and especially in this street, because I also drove to this area, such a beautiful street with all the bungalows, and they are blended in shape and size, whether it's a second story or 1 story. So keeping in view, and especially when you visit the site after that, I can say that third story to this building, to this property is really making a big change, and its impact, and it's going to be change the landscape of the area. It's not the character of the neighborhood for that. So both these variances, whether these are the GFA, which is going to be an overdeveloped dwelling, and keeping in view the third story, I think the impact is not going to be that positive and favorable for the landscape of the area. So yes, these 2 points are very important to be considered.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Any other comment? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. I'm strongly influenced, I must admit, by the fact that the reduced third story does not really add to a massing concern. And what I did on my own is I kind of did a 45-degree plane from the leading edge of that roof, and it clearly is not visible from the street. So I guess on balance, yeah, I'm not concerned about massing, and I'm leaning to be supportive of this proposal.
Okay, all right. I just want to throw it out there, there's an opportunity to, should the committee lean towards approving, there's an opportunity to tie it to the plans as well, so that the third story massing is only limited to that reduced footprint and doesn't go from one end to the other end. Just a thought, should the committee approve it? But again, I'm in your hands. So at this point, if there are no further comments, I think we've spent quite a bit of time on this one. If there are no further comments and questions, can I please have a motion? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Considering all these discussions, and also we hear the applicant and the community, Madam Chair, I believe the variances which are attached to this application, they are not minor not they are appropriate. So I move the motion for refusal of this application.
Can I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Member Taylor opposes it. I oppose it for the record as well. The application has been refused. Thank you. Okay, we now go to item number 2. Item number 2 is 806 Kennedy Road. And can I have the agent, please, Lance Caprillian?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. It's Lance Caprillian speaking.
Thank you, Lance. Lance, I believe the matter was held because member Said had some questions. So how would you like to proceed? Would you like to do a presentation or would you go directly to questions from member Said?
I believe a presentation was requested by Member Said, and I'd be happy to have the opportunity to present what we're proposing, actually. So.
Sure, let me just check. So member Said, you wish to have a presentation? Are we good to go then? A short presentation?
Short presentation will be good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So Lance, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. It may be useful, Katrine, if you could bring up the parking study that we completed, and in particular, page 2 of that study, where we have the site plan and also the parking statistics. I believe that's one of the concerns that Member Said mentioned. We took the parking issue very seriously because we were aware that we were reducing the parking. We did the study. The owners took a great deal of time to do an audit with existing residents. And I would just like to comment on the conclusions of those two procedures. One, the parking study concluded that, in fact, the future demand would be 42 spaces based on the current demand. So there you see the chart that indicates the parking supply, currently 58, proposed is 44. And what it concludes at the end is that, in fact, the future demand would be 42 spots. So the 44 would accommodate that demand. The owners also conducted an exhaustive audit with the residents and concluded that as you know, we're retaining 7 of the interior parking spaces. Of the other spots, many indoor spots, many were used for storage of things other than vehicles, with the result that there are 18 tenants with parking needs currently parking indoors that will be accommodated outdoors. The owners met with each of those people and provided compensation for this change. In addition, there are 10, I'm sorry, I have that reversed. There is actually 10 spaces coming from inside outside, and there are 18 spaces outside. Anyway, the total tenant spaces required outside is 28. So we have currently a demand of 35 spaces for tenants, indoors and outdoors, leaving 9 spaces to the proposed number of 44. Of those 9, we're proposing 6 to be visitor spots and 3 are in flux. They could be used for visitors, they could be used for tenants. We're just going to see how that goes and appropriately set them as needed. If we could go back to the site plan, which we were looking at there, I just wanted to point out some of the changes we made based on the conversations we had with planning staff and with the deputy mayor's office. There was a general concern that we were not providing amenity space, which we are now proposing indoors and outdoors. And you'll see on the top of the building, about a third of the way from the street, there are some tables there. There's an outdoor amenity space, and adjacent to it, an indoor amenity space. This building enters at grade level and then slopes down to the rear. So the parking at the rear is actually down 1 level from grade at front. So this outdoor amenity space is actually at grade we will be doing some excavation there to provide the at-grade access, though it's one level down from this street. So there was a variance because it's below established grade, but in fact, the effect of it is that it's at grade. For tenants, they will be able to go directly outside from the indoor space. So it'll be an outdoor, essentially the intent of the bylaw is met, even though we're below the established, technically below the established grade, which is at the street level. We also provided 2 new parking spots out front. You'll see those just by the curved driveway. And this was partly in response to conversations we had and what we heard from tenants, that visitor spots at the front for deliveries and better access would be useful. So we've provided those. In addition, we're proposing to have a bypass installed because currently it's just one narrow driveway. So the bypass, the idea there is to facilitate movement of vehicles through this entrance for drop off and whatnot. It could also be used for overflow deliveries and that type of thing. Another thing we've done in response to tenant comments is at the rear, you'll see we're providing a barrier-free spot. That is actually will be assigned to one of the tenants who has requested it. So we've provided that spot and we've provided a walkway so there's no requirement to go on the road, and that walkway will take that resident directly inside. This is one of the things that that came out of this conversation with residents. We also had a tenant meeting to describe what we're proposing, and generally the feedback was positive for that.
Lance, sorry to interrupt you, sir, but your time's up, so you may want to just close your remarks, please.
Certainly, I shall. Sorry, didn't realize it went so fast.
No.
Just one final quick comment on the landscape. We have improved the amount of landscape on the site with a lot of focus on providing landscape strip that is to the zoning bylaw on the tenant side. We have one area where we are a little closer, but it's a point. It's the parking area at the point. The rest of it is actually a nice wide landscape area. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Lance. Member Saith, any questions for Lance? Are you clear on your questions?
Thank you, Lance, for this elaboration on the parking spots. I understand all these variances and the chain of variances are occurring because you are converting the existing storage as well as the laundry to the dwelling units, and it's a ground floor. Is this storage and laundry facility will be still there at another on another floor? Like you said, the amenity, you have created some space for the amenity, right? What about the storage and laundry? Is going to be existing, or this is going to be totally removed?
That's an excellent question. Yes, we are providing a brand new laundry room on the lower level with access, visual access with windows to the outside. That will be adjacent to the tenant amenity space right opposite the elevator. We're also providing a new locker storage room in the lower level as well. And that is going to be a combined locker room that will serve all tenants. So it'll be one very large space that will have updated lockers. And we've also provided a new garbage room to try to clean up some of the mess that happens with the green bin and the recycling on the property. So that will now be indoors as well. So the tenants will just be able to go down the elevator and pop into that room inside. And all those happen on the lower level.
Okay. Member Said, you're good?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Member Macaulay?
A question and a comment. Looking at this, can the applicant confirm that it is a rental building? And can the applicant also give an idea of how old that building is? When was it constructed?
Lance?
I should know that. It is a rental building, and it is an aging building, I'm going to say. I think maybe the 60s. I can't be sure of the exact date.
Okay. My comment is that it is good to see that we are continuing to have rental in Toronto, but you're adding to the rental stock by these additional units. And it's also really good to see that you are improving existing buildings and bringing them up to standard. That's all I have to say, Madam.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Member Macaulay. I concur with you. It certainly is going to help with the demand for affordable and rental housing in the city. So on that note, on that happy note, I want to make sure that there are no further concerns and that we can go into the committee. All right. Thank you very much, Lance, for your presentation. I think you've answered all the questions that Mr. Said had and Member Macaulay. Now, members of the committee, if there are no further questions or comments, can I please have a motion? Member Said, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Lance, for your elaboration. Madam Chair, I am satisfied over the elaborations for the parking spots as well as the amenity space, and also providing the services pertaining to storage and laundry to the tenants there. That's a good point.
Okay.
With that, I move the motion for approval of item number 2, and there are no conditions attached to that.
Okay, thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
All right, all in favor of this motion? And the motion's carried. The application for 806 Kennedy Road has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, we now go to the third item. Third item is, item number 3 is 201 Rouge Hills Drive. And we are going to go to the applicant or the architect, Saba El Matno. Perfect. Saba, you with us?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair and committee members.
Good morning, Saba. And I want to check with the co-owner, Riazat Hussain. Riazat, you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So, Riazat, I just want to confirm, is Saba representing you today and she'd be speaking on your behalf today?
Yes, and then I would also like to put a little input of my own after she speaks.
Okay.
It is convenient.
All right, thank you very much. So we will start with Saba, but before I do that, I'm not doing a roll call, but I just want to make aware that we have 2 speakers, Bill and Elizabeth Meek and Kevin Beleski. So Bill and Elizabeth and Kevin, if you are listening in, please make sure you take your place. I will call you as soon as your turn is up. So going back to Saba, Saba, you have, would you like to make a presentation or would you go right into the question?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to do a presentation. And before that, my name is Saba Mefna from QBS Architects. Our address 1670 Bayview Avenue, Unit 401. And if I could kindly ask Catherine if she is able to put on the screen our December 3rd renderings.
Just bear with us, Saba. The renderings. Saba's asking for renderings to be put up, please. No problem. Take your time.
I could start speaking while Catherine is doing that, so we are not wasting time.
It's up to you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And what we are presenting before you here is an application that was deferred from last December 2020, as we have received later comments from neighbors that objecting to our application. So our clients, in good faith, we decided to withdraw, and we had a meeting. Personally, I had a meeting with the neighbors along with my clients. We listened to them, and based on their recommendations, we went back to the drawing board. We eliminated the secondary units and part of the side extension that housed the secondary stairs to the secondary units. We have reduced every single variance almost, including the building length, the FSI, the building depth, the number of platform. It's worth mentioning that our house is 2-story. Thank you so much. So if you can see the red line, that was our previous proposal from last year, and hence after that we have reduced it. It's worth mentioning because of the grades, our house is considered 3-story, so 3-story technical. It's not 3-story physical. We are still in line with the maximum building height in meters. And the FSI variance, unfortunately, the basement is considered as in our GFI because the basement ceiling is the closest floor to the grade, hence it is considered in our GFA. Without considering the basement and with considering our entire lot area, our FSI would be 37.54% only. Again, our lot is a TRCA lot, so part of our lot was not counted because we count only to the top of slope. And with that, excluding the basement, our FSI is 45.2%. Worth mentioning, this is a 3-generation house. We have our clients, their 3 kids, and their parents living in this house, and we are trying to make it multi-generational. Hence, we are converting the existing it's a split level, so we are just making the ground floor as one level with typical basement. If you see from the streetscape, it does look as a 2-story house. We just basically filled in everything in the front, and we listened to the neighbors. They were wondering about some of massing and projecting onto their property. So if you could see on the rendering to the right and to the left, we created some sort of a balcony to enhance the side neighbors, which I think it's Mr. Bill Meeks. This is what I want to present. We have the support also of the West Rouge um, community. I had a meeting with them this Monday, actually, and we presented to them our application. There was misunderstanding also about the 3-story, and once we shared the drawings with them and the facts, they were satisfied with our application. So I am ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Saba. That was good. Members of the committee, any questions for Saba at this time? Okay, I see none. All right, Saba, could you just stay with us and we'll come back to you once we had a chance to speak with others. Riazat Hussain, can we have Riazat, please? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kendra. I'm in. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Please go ahead. You wanted to make some remarks and comments, so please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. First, let me introduce myself because, as you rightly said, it's a multi-generational family, and I am the grandfather. Actually, my son would have represented me, but today there was an urgent assignment he had to attend. And, first of all, a letter was sent to the committee members some time ago, and so they have been through it. I don't want to go all the details, but there's a few things I think just to refresh the memory and add to the comments we have already sent. And this is that we have been a resident of our home for the last 11 years and been trying to renovate our house, accommodate a larger family and address some of the problems. We have a good relationship with our neighbors and we value them all the time. So in order to satisfy our requirements for the small space, cramped up space which we have, we decided to upgrade this house. And in the process, we came across 6 CRCA rules section which complied. And there's been one thing is to notice very much is this entire rural area is totally changing in streetscape. Old buildings are being torn down, new buildings are being put up, and every time you drive around, you'll always see a 2-3 of building construction. We distinctly started this program in 2009, consulted 2019, and we consulted several builders, looked to follow the design, which was in line with precedent, so that at any stage, our proposal should not exceed what is already been approved and being constructed in this area. And to this effort, we had also obtained 5 support letters from our close neighbors. However, on reviewing the original plans, there were some concerns with our neighbors, and we held a virtual meeting with them, and we tried as much as our best to satisfy them and to try and amend the comments in the drawing, satisfy what was not, on which they were not happy. And this almost took us a year because we drew our application and we made the changes, we ran all over the place in the drawings, did everything that we could. And finally, we did, and in this process, we incurred financial losses and lost one whole year. It's interesting to note that when we started this program, my son was expecting his third granddaughter, and now she's almost 2 years old. So you can see how much painful time has been spent just trying to be a good neighbor, I suppose. And I don't want to repeat what we have done. I think Sabha has explained that we taken out the secondary suite, reduce the building height, change the footprint, and everything possible that could be done here. But I also just want to add these two things, that based on the city record, the longest length approved by the committee in the Rouge's Drive has been 25.5 meters, house number 308, height 9.5 meters, it is on 23 Blue King Crescent. And besides, only one top neighbor at 205 already has a building length of 22.96 meters, exceeding what we have already proposed in terms of reference to the third. In reference to the third floor, I think you've already heard from Sabha. Is basically the basement, which has been, on technical reasons, has been counted as the first floor. And of course, on all accounts, on FSI numbers and other such things, you can go to house number 19, 21, and 23 and Blue King Crescent right across. And all our numbers are much below what has already been approved and been constructed. There's one last thing that we started, and finally, I think I must add, at the onset, the West Rouge Community Association had posted an objection to our drawing. We had a meeting with them, and they patiently listened to our point of view. And as of yesterday, they have withdrawn this letter via an email sent to Madam Kathleen Darling. So, to our knowledge, we have fully complied and satisfied with the West Rouge Community Association. Thank you to the committee member for its consideration, and look forward to your hearing from you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Riazat Hussain. Congratulations on your growing family. It's great to have a big family living all together. So on that note, any questions for the owner or the co-owner? Okay, I see none. Let's move to the first speaker who has registered to speak with us, and it is Bill and Elizabeth Meek. Perfect.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Please go ahead, and you have 5 minutes. Tell us what your concerns are with the application.
Okay. First off, we both have something to say, if it's possible, myself and my wife, Elizabeth. One thing I'd like to mention, I did send in on November 28th a revised response to the application, but it doesn't seem to be in the documents. I sent it to C of A and Katrien on November 28th, later in the day, and it was a little more elaborate than what you have in the current application documents on the City of Toronto website.
Okay, just give me a moment. Let me check what we have here. So, Katrine, do we know what's being referred?
Well, it was when it was on November 28th, 2021 that I sent it. And the one that you have on file right now is from last year, after the initial.
So
this one,
previous.
I sent PDF, the public hearing notice submission, file number AO222 20SC, November 28th, 2021, and I don't see it anywhere.
I'm not sure.
The C of A and Katrien.
Okay, so how about this, Bill? Why don't we just start, and if Katrine's able to find it, she'll bring it up, okay?
Okay, yeah, great. I mean, in the end, I'll discuss everything that's in there, but the pictures and my comments, might be a little more detailed. But I mean, first off, um, this area, this end of Rouge Hills Drive is different than any other part of the West Rouge area. We have very good views of Lake Ontario from the south side and even from the east. And I believe these buildings, there was 4 of them built 1974 in 1978. So the 199 and 201 were built in 78, I believe, and myself at 203 and 205 were built in 74. So they were all pretty much in line. So um, you know what I'm really getting at here is I believe that the buildings were built to maximize the views. And with with these variances that our neighbors have brought up, I really don't think they're minor. I think they're closer to major in terms of the effect it has on our enjoyment of our property. I will go back and say that I have spoken to the neighbors, and we've always had a good relationship with them up until this point. The last time I spoke to um, Joe Dat with regards to the application was last March, and he talked to me about the changes they were making, the removal of the second suite and a couple of the other things, shortening it a little bit. And I expressed to him um, that we were still not, in favor of it. And I get it. He wants to um, create a larger space for the family and everything, but the problem is it's at a cost of our enjoyment of the property. And I believe it's both a personal enjoyment and value and financial value as well. Going through the variances themselves, with the maximum, with the height. So point number 1, the bylaw 2013. What is it? 40.10.2. At the front of the house where they're doing the addition, it's adding approximately I'm going to on the minimum 10 feet of wall space that blocks out our second floor and our main floor views and natural light. At the rear of the building, the increase in wall height is just under 6 feet. It's like 5'6", I believe. And it also, getting into the building length, it extends another at least 12 feet. So really what happens is our whole south side view is diminished, both main and second floor. Our natural light is affected. And even in the backyard, and we do use our yard a lot, there's a very large facade that comes over and in it. So it creates it's a lack of privacy, it's a lack of light, and it takes away from our view. So it's, those are the two really key things. I understand that it's not a 3-story house. These houses were constructed as 5-level back splits. So they're unique in themselves, where the square footage, if you look at the house from the front, and when you come into the house, you don't feel like it has a lot of space, but these houses are actually quite large because they're 5 levels. And we know because we're multi-generational as well, because we have our mother-in-law with us here for the last 7 years. And we have enough space here so that she has her own room, bathroom, and so on. So, I know it's a little difficult to renovate these houses because of that, because of the 5 levels, but that's also what makes them unique, and also provides us with, that view and natural light. And with this application, it's going to take away from us for sure. The platforms, a number of platforms, we have a very small balcony at the back. We rarely use it. With that addition, it will definitely affect our view. The bigger part is
Bill, sorry to interrupt you, sir, but your time's up, so you may want to close your remarks, please.
okay. I'd like to pass it over to my wife then, if that's okay.
So here's the thing. You were listed as one speaker on my list, and time allocated is 5 minutes. So unfortunately, I won't be able to give your wife an opportunity.
So my wife will take the closing remarks.
I'll take the closing
Okay.
remarks then.
Okay, please
We
go.
are a 3-generational house. This is profoundly affecting the value of our house. Our views are taken away, privacy is taken away, sunlight is taken away. By making their views better, they're basically stealing from ours, which is part of our property value. They're probably taking $250,000 off of the property, our value. So they talk about financial losses through redoing their plans. Well, they're basically really causing us financial losses. It's a story, it's a building that goes tall from end to end. They're going to get to overlook the lake. We are not. We paid a higher price for our home due to where we live. And our proximity to the lake and views from our property are why we purchased the property. So I'm completely and utterly against this. I feel that it's extremely disrespectful to us as neighbors, and with all the minor variances, it adds up to a massive change. And I am completely happy with this.
Okay, all
And
right.
that
Thank you,
I wish that
Elizabeth.
you
Mm-hmm.
things up, because I think it's really unfair that you don't have my husband's, like Katrine didn't put in the newer response. So I feel like that's putting us at a disadvantage. And I almost feel like this shouldn't even go ahead as a meeting because the proper documentation was not put up on your side.
Okay.
We put it in,
Mm-hmm.
but the city has not.
Okay, we'll check at our end. Katrine is checking. I'm not sure where it is, but we'll certainly find it, and then hopefully we can address it before the hearing ends. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your time. We need to keep moving here, so I'm going to ask for the next speaker, Kevin Bileski. All right. Thank you. Kevin, you're with us?
Yeah, I am, and I was trying to unmute as we were talking there. It's that Elizabeth can have my time.
No,
If
that's
I'm
okay.
able to do that, since they weren't listed twice. So if I'm listed for 5 minutes, I'm perfectly fine deferring my time to give it over to Elizabeth.
Sir, I can't just flip flop like that. You have your 5 minutes, and if you want to give up, that's great. But unfortunately, I won't be able to go back to Elizabeth. But I can certainly hear you.
Okay, it's just I just don't see why you couldn't swap them out.
Because here's the thing, Kevin, you appreciate this is not just one application. We have a lot of applications, and if I start doing that, I will not be able to moderate this discussion at all. Because then it'll be very difficult, and then of course last thing I want is people complaining. So that's why I want to keep the protocol and decorum of the meeting as the way it should be. I hope you understand my position. So here's your time, please go ahead.
I understand. Yes, so I'm across the street from the development. And a lot of my concerns were definitely already addressed with the, it's not, my concerns were not towards the current family and their current usage. My concerns were what happens after. Like directly across the street from me was sold and has now become a revolving Airbnb joy of crap running in and out of their house. So setting up the place as a multi-family dwelling right now is great for them. But the issue is when they sell the place. And I think they did address those multi-household, putting in multiple kitchens and multiple this and multiple that. And so I think they've gone along those lines for that. I'm just kind of here to help the Meeks out with their issues on across the street and changing the kind of the look and the feel of our street from the type and look of the houses at this end are all one thing, and then as you go up the street, they've created some of these what I refer to as monstrosities, in tearing down some of the old cottages and putting up these monster houses. I went through a massive addition on my house, but I also did it underneath every variance so that I wouldn't have to come to this committee. And it was a lot easier on my part for that. If you stay underneath every variance, then you don't need to go to this committee. The variances are kind of made for kind of a reason so that you don't have to go to committee. That's, pretty much kind of my 2 cents on this. So if I can't hand things back to the Meeks, then that's kind of all I have.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Kevin, for your time. Members of the committee, any questions for Kevin? Okay, I see none. Thank you very much. I will now go back to Sabah.
Yes, Madam Chair. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to respond
You
back.
have 5 minutes, Sabah, so that I can keep track of time here. So you have 5 minutes, and you can respond to the concerns.
Absolutely. We have been extremely respectful for our neighbors. We maintain the existing side yard setback, as you can see. If Catherine can kindly put the floor plans again, especially the site plan, because it does show the line of sight of the neighbor. We did, our extension is only 2.1 meter. That's the second story adjacent to the neighbors, and then it grows to 3.2 meter only. So it's not massive extension by all means. The number of platforms, they are existing, and the only additional platform created on the second floor is due to giving the neighbors better view, if you can see on the site plan here. And you see the jog here. This is created to give the Meeks better visual and to reduce the massing. If you can go, Catherine, please, to the floor plans, especially the second floor plan. This is not going to be Airbnb or anything by all means. In respect to the massing, you can see we have lots of jogs and in and out to reduce the massing impact. As well as all the areas of the bedrooms are extremely moderate. Like we have the kids' bedrooms are 11 feet max. The master bedroom are 9 feet, 14 feet. And this is the grandma, grandpa suite. Clearly, we have the elevator to serve them, and this is their living room. So I believe our application is respectful, and I don't see how it's reducing the value of the neighbors. It's definitely a positive addition to the neighborhood, and that's what was echoed in the planning report. We have support from planning, we have support TRCA, we have support Ravine, and we tried hardly to work with the neighbors. And we sent them an email from June. We haven't heard anything from them with these revised drawings. So I hope that the committee members find our application acceptable and minor in nature. And I am ready to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Sabah. Members of the committee, any questions for Sabah? All right, there are no questions. Thank you, Sabah. We'll take the matter into committee now. Committee members? Any comments, internal deliberations? Any thoughts? Silence. All right, member say.
I think I should break the silence over there. Madam Chair, again, talking about the area and the street, which is very unique, and I wish if Catherine can just show you the street view, and you look at the neighborhoods. It's such a beautiful neighborhood. Again, all bungalows are blended, Yes, Sabah was saying that it's not going to be a three-story. Technically, yes, it is a three-story building where the basement has been considered at the first story. But my concern is about the building length as well, because that is making it a massive structure over there. And also, Sabah, if there was certain changes in the outlook so that it could be blended with the character of the street, the other bungalows which are there for the past many years. That is a unique characteristic of the street. So my concern, Madam Chair, is for the variance, which is about the length of the building, and also the character of the street, which is not making this development a very 100% appropriate, because it's going to be a massive, and it's going to be the out of the landscape of the area. It's not blending into the neighborhood. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Katrine.
Yeah, Katrine, if you have that, can you please keep that up there? Oh, sorry. Member Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to put forth a different perspective than Member Said. My main consideration dealing with situations like this is not to be as concerned about how a building fits into an existing situation, but how the proposed building relates to the as of right standards. And in this case, I note that, well, it's already been pointed out, it's technically a three-story, but really two. There are no height variances required. There's a negligible front yard variance, which I believe is an existing situation. There are no rear yard or side yard variances requested. And the FSI, which appears to be significantly greater than required by zoning, is really technical because the ground floor is basement, which is included in the FSI. So again, in my mind, the important consideration is compatibility with existing zoning standards. And I would see this proposal as being quite appropriate and reasonable.
Okay, thank you, Member Taylor. Katrine, you can pull this down. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, so I concur with Member Taylor as well. I think if you look at the individual variances, yes, there is a request for a three-story, but if you really look at it, it's very technical in nature, and I'm looking at the plans as well. If you look at the plans, it's only being triggered because of the basement that's being constituted as a story because of its height there. But there's no request for height variance. It's because of the design of the building, there's a request for the maximum height of the exterior side or the main walls, but overall height remains under or within the permitted height requirements. Front yard setback, I'm assuming that's an existing front yard setback, right? And it's in line with what's there. So overall, I feel, and the other variances are related to the platforms and some balconies. So overall, I feel that there's no significant increase in massing. It's a deep lot, as we all saw. It's a deep lot. There's no setbacks required or variances required for setbacks or, on the side or on the sides as well. So it's maintaining appropriate distance from the adjacent dwellings as well. So in my opinion, it's an appropriate application. But committee members, if everyone's prepared for a motion, then I would request for a motion unless someone has a different opinion or would like to comment at this time. Member Taylor?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I find the proposal to be quite reasonable, meets the four tests under the Planning Act. And I would move approval subject to urban forestry condition number 3.
All right, and may I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I will second that motion. I believe the application is a minor variance, and I looked at the impact as the Meeks were discussing. I'm not sure that there is very much that can be done. They still have a very large backyard, and and view of the lake. Um, so I think this application is appropriate. The minor variances are truly minor when you look at what is required, and I would support Member Taylor's motion.
Thank you. So members Macaulay seconded the motion. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried unanimously and the application is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll now go to item number 4. Item number 4 is 30, okay. All right, so let's deal with item 4 and 5 together because it's kind of two sides of the same coin here. So 37A and 37B, and those are item 4 and 5. Can I have Mr. Jurusik, please? All right, thank you.
Good morning, committee.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Jurusik. So
Good afternoon. I didn't notice it changed to 12 o'clock already.
Yes, we have a busy agenda and a day today. So we're looking at two applications together. I hope it's okay with you. 37A
Yes, no, that's
Alistair and 37B Alistair. And this is to permit construction of a new two-story detached dwelling. And the proposed or the existing lot frontages and the proposed is existing lot areas for both lots 159 and 160 were established through the registration of the plan of subdivision. So these are existing lots on a plan of subdivision.
correct.
All right, so on that note, I'm going to move to you. Do you wish to make a presentation or do you want to go into questions? I want to just say there's.
I'd like to make a short
Go.
presentation.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, as mentioned by the committee chair, these are existing draft plan lots, lot 160 and 159 of a draft plan. This neighborhood here, we're looking to develop two houses. We do have two different owners on the property. If Katrine could put up the existing survey that's on the AIC, the survey drawing, it can help me just explain a couple of issues here. And while she's bringing that up, the existing survey, the property here, the two properties are legal lots of records with PIN numbers. And there's two issues here when we look at character of the communities. One is, I guess, lot size, but also the prevailing house types as well. When you look at this development, when the survey was completed, you look at the dwellings right now, they don't fill up the lots themselves. The dwellings themselves are about 7.5 to 7.9 meters in width. When you look at 39 Alistair, 35 Alistair, and 37 Alistairs, the dwellings themselves are not that wide. They don't take the full extent of the existing zoning provisions, which allow up to 0.9 side yard setbacks. So two issues here, besides the fact that these are two lots of records and we're just trying to get the area and frontage to compliance, our proposed dwellings, we did design them in with respect to the existing zoning bylaws and all of their provisions. So that is why we're not requesting any variances. As a result, the widths of our dwellings are more similar to the existing prevailing house widths in the area. So we have two issues here. Some houses are being demolished in these areas which are on larger lots, 50-foot lots, and large houses are being built on them. What we're proposing here is two dwellings on these two lots, and they do meet more of a pattern of the existing dwellings in terms of the width. Mind you, the majority of them are bungalow, and we are proposing a two-story house, which is permitted. But in terms of the pattern of house types, the widths of this proposed dwelling will be in line with the prevailing house types there in terms of width sizes, as opposed to what's happening in other areas on this street, which is they're demolishing the houses and building larger homes, almost double the size of the width of the prevailing house pattern there. So I just wanted to bring that into there. I know there's some people waiting to speak on this matter as well, so I reserve the right to comment on their proposals after. So I just want to conclude that this is existing lots of record with two PIN numbers and two property owners, and we're just trying to bring in two houses which meet the requirements for zoning, except for lot frontage and area.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Katrine. Members of the committee, any questions for Mr. Jurusik? Member Taylor, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Not really a question, but just to sort of set the table for the people that are going to be speaking on this matter. It's been stated, but I'd just like to make it clear again. The only variances requested here are lot frontage and lot area. For 2 lots that are registered lots on a plan of subdivision, they are so-called lots of record. So my suggestion is any comments, concerns about the buildings being proposed are really irrelevant because the buildings do not in and of themselves generate any variance requests. The only variances we're talking about are the size of these lots, which are already in existence. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but I just want to set that out as a preamble.
Thank you, Member Taylor. No, I think that's a good sort of explanation or clarification. I think that should be helpful in streamlining, speakers' comments. So I appreciate that. All right. So can I have now the first? Just let me check. The same speakers are listed for item 4 and 5. So I could just go through one list. I don't see any difference in the list. Okay. Want to confirm, is Mr. Jurusik, is Salvatore Deliciano also going to be speaking? No, he's not the agent. I think that's, okay, so it's listed as the agent on the sheet. Okay. He's a neighbor, okay. All right, so I'm not going to do a roll call, but just kind of sort of just name out the names so that everyone's prepared. Salvatore, Mark, Mohammed Qadir, Peter Tachek, Janet May, and Tom Cassandra. You're all listed as speakers. I'll start with Salvatore. Salvatore, are you on the line, please?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Salvatore, and you have 5 minutes, sir. Please go ahead.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, good afternoon. So yeah, I'm the neighbor. My concerns are just because of the area being 50-foot lots. I think it will ruin the landscape of the area. Being that there's no sidewalks, bringing in more houses, more traffic. Kids playing on the street. How's all that going to take place? Also in the winter hours or the winter months, sorry, parking and stuff. We can't park on the street. So bringing 2 houses, I'm not sure how that would all pan out.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, any questions for Salvatore? Right, I see none. Thank you. Thank you, Salvatore, for your time. Can we please have Mark Hoflich? Mark, are you with us?
Hello?
Hi, Mark. Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I have been a resident in this community for 27 years. And the houses in this area have the 50-foot lots. Basically, every home that's on the lot is in the center of that property lot line. The charm of the area is the size of the lot. I understand that many of these homes are being taken down and replaced. I have myself did a renovation over 20 years ago to my home and enlarged it. This is not in the character of the neighborhood to have in the middle of the block 2 dwellings on one property or on one 50-foot area. It's going to change the entire landscape of the entire street. Also, my other concern is parking. You're going to diminish the amount of parking, and as we know, most households have 2 vehicles. There's going to be 4 vehicles parked in front of the home. I know for a fact that there's going to be vehicles parked on the street as well, which also is a safety concern. And the last thing is the infrastructure in the neighborhood. not very far from us, they were putting in new condominiums on Kingston Road, which is going to be more demand on the water systems. And currently, I know for a fact, and because I've been living there for over 27 years, the water pressure in the neighborhood is so bad that if if the neighbor flushes the toilet, you can actually see your sprinkler diminish in height. So if we start splitting the lots and adding double the amount of houses on the street, where are we going to go with the infrastructure? This is all the points I have that I'd like to bring up. I'm definitely opposed to doing this split in the property. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mark. So a couple of things here. First of all, I want to just clarify that yes, indeed, there's one house currently located on the property. And when I say the property is actually comprising of two existing lots on record. So back in the day when this plan of subdivision was approved, there were actually two lots of record on a registered plan. So if you can see lot 141 and lot 142, sorry, lot 160 and 159, they actually exist. They exist on a piece of paper that was approved years ago. They were never developed as two lots. Both lots were developed as one lot and one house was placed. So in theory, the permissions exist today for two lots of records. So what the applicant is doing now is utilizing those existing permissions of having two lots and building a dwelling, a house on each of those lots. So it's not a consent application, there's no severance being proposed, there's actually two lots on record. So it's like, I have this right that I have two lots and I can build a house on each lot. That's what this application is for. Except that under the zoning, which probably transpired years after the draft plan was done, the zoning bylaw requires that the minimum lot frontage be of 12 meters, which is understandable because that's what the character or that's what the lot frontage is for all other lots on the street. And then that the area be 464 square meters. But what is happening is that because these are two existing lots of records, they have the ability to develop for a single detached dwelling on each of the lots, except that the lots do not meet the requirements of the zoning today. And hence, that's what the application is for in front of us today. I just want to clarify that. Okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Mark. Any questions for Mark at this time? Okay, I see none. All right, thank you very much. We'll move to our next speaker, Mohammed Qadir.
Good afternoon. This
Good
is
afternoon.
Mohammed. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mohammed.
Okay,
Sir,
great.
you have
Thanks
5
a lot
minutes.
for
Go
giving me
ahead.
the opportunity. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. I'm going to be very brief. I don't have any issue or objections to the proposal of building one house on one lot each at lot 159 and lot 160 at 37 Alstrad Avenue by the corporation which owns that property. As far as I'm concerned, one house per lot makes sense to me. And that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, well,
I
thank
don't
you,
have any
Mohammed.
objections.
Thank you very much. But again, I'm going to repeat, there are two lots on record, so they can have one house on each of the lots. So that's what the permissions are.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. It makes sense to me, and I don't have any objection to that.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, sir.
You're welcome.
Before you go, I want to ask the committee members if they have any questions for you, and I do see Member Macaulay has. So Member Macaulay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question for the applicant, but I do want to caution you in your description of this property. It is two lots on a plan of subdivision, but they cannot build on that except they have to build one house with a minimum frontage of 12 meters and a minimum lot area of 464. This is a somewhat unusual situation, but not unheard of when a plan of subdivision was registered and at a later date, the zoning bylaw looked at it and said, yes, we think in terms of building that you need a minimum frontage of 12 meters, regardless of what the plan of subdivision said. Alternatively, they would have taken the width of the lots as shown on the plan of subdivision and the lot area. The issue then becomes that this is a whole area where it was anticipated that there would be a certain number of lots and infrastructure for a certain number of lots, and that number of lots is half of what the plan of subdivision provided. So we're dealing with an old situation. It happens in Scarborough, it happens in East York, where the zoning bylaw doesn't conform with the plan of subdivision that was laid down, but the lots are determined through the zoning bylaw to be larger. So I think we have to be careful as to what we are talking about here. We are talking about lots on a plan of subdivision, but we're also talking about building lots. And in this case, there's two different connotations of it. So I just want to be careful of that, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Although I'm not 100% clear, but that's okay. I'm sure it'll flesh itself out through the further discussion.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
If it's okay, we need to switch streams to the PM stream. If you give us probably 2 minutes to be able to change streams.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
So for the viewers who are watching this on YouTube, we will be shifting from the AM stream to now the PM stream in 2 minutes. Thank you.